Hey friends, ready to think together? All right, so we left last time with a question. What was the fruit on the tree of the knowledge of good and evil that God told Adam and Eve they could not eat of? They could eat of everything except this fruit. Was it A, an apple? Was it B, a pear? Was it C, a banana? Or was it D, none of the above? The correct answer is D, none of the above. He doesn't say. So why is this important? What does tradition say? It was an apple. What does all the pictures show? It was an apple. This is the importance of you needing to pick up the Bible and study for yourselves, not to trust man, or maybe take what they're saying and then test scripture like the Bereans did in the book of Acts to find out for yourself. So today we're going to be talking about the fall of Adam and Eve, who were placed in the best of situations. Adam was the head of all man. All of us, every human being, 8 billion people on this planet, and every man and woman since then go back to our natural father, Adam and Eve. And they had no sin. They were in the best of situations. They had communion with God, and God told them not to eat of this tree. Now, you got to imagine it's in the mountain of God. The Garden of Eden's in the mountain. Okay, and I believe that's Jerusalem. I believe it's on where the temple is and where the Dome of the Rock is. And it's always been the case. That's my personal opinion of where the Garden of Eden was located. So, Adam and Eve didn't know what sin was. And yet they chose to disobey God. Now imagine this, you got thousands, you got a whole mountain to play in. And the only area where Eve is found is where? In the area God told her not to be. Does that sound familiar? Now Adam was to guard and to keep, and that includes protecting Eve from the enemy. But Eve was by herself. And she went there, and then here comes the introduction to our mortal enemy, Satan. We'll be discussing him next time. But Eve is in an area where she shouldn't be to begin with, when she had all them acres to go play in. She's right where she's not supposed to be, tempted in her own mind to have something that someone told her she couldn't have. So, of course, the enemy comes and says, has God said? My friends, if you remember that and you take that and you apply it to every religion, and to everything in this world, in our own rebellion, what does the enemy always say? Or what do we in our own minds say? Did God really say that? It's okay if I do that. And we try to misconstrue, to twist, and to pervert what God has intended. And that is exactly what our enemy has done. But the second thing to remember also is that if Eve was, let's put it this way, if I come up to you and you are right next to an area you know you're not supposed to be, and I'm saying, hey man, why don't you just go ahead and just go on in? No one's going to know. Are you going to be more tempted to go in? Versus, let's say you're miles away playing somewhere else, and I come and say, hey man, why don't we go back over here and let's go in there? You're going to be like, man, I don't have time for that. But when you're right where you know you're not supposed to be, pretty much allowing yourself to be the temptation in that rebellion part of Eve and Adam, that's exactly what happened. Now, there are consequences for the action. First, Eve even added to Scripture what God said. God said you cannot eat of it. She added, you can't even touch it. They ate of it. She gave to Adam. He ate of it, and their eyes were open. They saw they were naked. They made themselves clothing to hide themselves. And the voice of God walked in the garden and asked them where they were at. And they were ashamed. And then God had to say, who told you? Did you eat of the tree of knowledge of good and evil? Now, God knew this already. He's asking to see if they will admit it. And then we're going to go into this a little bit more next week, but you're going to see what we do as human nature. But man, the end of this is man in the best of situations will always choose to rebel against God. Thus, we need someone outside of ourselves to save us. Thus, Jesus. More next week.